Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the LA County Tree Canopy Map Viewer webinar launch. We are very pleased to have you here. My name is Edith de Guzman, and I am the Director of Research at TreePeople, and I'm honored to be your host this morning. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Please remain muted for the time being. We will have a discussion at the end of the webinar, and you'll have a chance to join the conversation then, if you wish. Please also rename yourself in Zoom if you haven't already, so that we can just see the wide array of organizations and entities that are represented here today. There are some instructions in the chat box that have been posted there for how to do that. This morning, we will hear remarks from a handful of our partners and funders, and then we will move into a demonstration of how the tool works and how to use it. That will constitute the bulk of our presentation to you this morning, and we will reserve questions for the end. We encourage you to have a conversation with us all by unmuting yourself at that time so we can actually have this be more interactive. But you can also feel free to type any questions you may have in the chat box as the questions occur to you. As I say, though, you can go ahead and wait until the latter part of the webinar. We've reserved a good chunk of time for that question, answer, and discussion period. At that time, Lisa and Eric from Loyola Marymount University will help by moderating that discussion. Just so you know, the webinar is being recorded and it will be posted on TreePeople's website. So now let me tell you just a little bit about how we got here. This project is co-led by TreePeople and the Loyola Marymount University Center for Urban Resilience. And it's funded through the USDA Forest Service and the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. With the first round of funding that we received about a year ago or so, a little over a year ago, TreePeople and the center at LMU completed a high-resolution tree canopy assessment with technical leadership by the University of Vermont Spatial Analysis Laboratory and Save a Tree Consulting. This assessment resulted in an incredibly rich data set down to the parcel level for all of Los Angeles County, showing not only existing tree canopy, but also estimated possible tree canopy. With that data set, we sought to fill an existing gap in the data that had been problematic for managers and advocates of the urban forest of our region. The data set from that assessment became available for folks who are more technically inclined and have GIS mapping skills, but it was our hope to make the data available and much more accessible to all users. The Forest Service and CAL FIRE once again offered their generous support, and here we are today, ready to launch a tool that we hope you and others interested in growing our urban forests in our region will be able to use with ease. I will now turn it over to Dr. Eric Strauss for a few words. Dr. Eric Strauss is the President's Professor of Biology and the Executive Director at the Center for Urban Resilience. Eric?
Good morning. Thank you, Edith. It's a delight to look down and see the participant numbers growing and the names of the people who are joining us. There are lots of friends who we've collaborated with here and people we have yet to meet. This is really delightful. And I think this stands as an extraordinary example of what a collaborative project can be like, especially as we think about the public good that this can do. And, you know, I think all of us understand just how critical green space is. Especially in our and peri-urban and central urban areas. And we begin to think then in the context of what we're battling right now, this pandemic and this enhanced realization of the social inequities we see in the United States. And this map is part of solutions in both communities of concern. We know that healthy green spaces help to ameliorate and modulate animal vector diseases. We also know that people who live with easy access to green space, regardless of their socioeconomic status, have all kinds of added amenities to their life, both social and physical. And this tool can help us improve those situations in communities of need. And it's such a delight to see this tool emerge, and then to think about and hopefully collaborate in the future with researchers and folks who are making decisions, elected officials, folks who are actually working out in the field using this tool to better these communities. And I want to take a moment to thank Los Angeles County for their incredible help in supporting this project, and the Los Angeles Regional Imagery Acquisition Consortium, because without that help, we wouldn't be able to access data like this to build such a map and then such a viewer system. These are expensive data to acquire, and because of the collaborative approach and a system of membership, we've been able to share in these data to produce tools like this. So really, again, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And without any further ado, it's back to Edith and get rolling. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I would now like to introduce Yassi Wilkins, who is here representing both the USDA Forest Service and the Los Angeles Center for Urban Natural Resources Sustainability. Yassi?
Hi, Edith. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for joining us this morning. It is a pleasure to be here. And for us at the LA Urban Center and the US Forest Service, it's vital for us to understand the benefits of trees and how they connect our communities' well-being. So with those efforts in mind, the US Forest Service actually supports community efforts to understand better, manage, and plan our street trees care, because it matters to you, it matters to us. Our partnership with TreePeople through the LA Urban Center identified this LiDAR data as a critical need, and not just in the local level, but also in a regional level, to be able to support urban forest management planning, which is something that is really needed in most of our cities and places we live and play and work. So thanks to the partnership with the LA Urban Center, CAL FIRE, and TreePeople to acquire this data and help interpret it for the communities to improve and work in the urban forest, which is a very important forest that many of us tend to forget. We think of the forest and we only think of actually the mountains, when we have forests surrounding all around us. And it's very important for us to actually care for those forests that are around us here because of the benefits that they provide. So we do hope that this data can support several initiatives. And the LA Urban Center actually has supported some of these studies already. We have currently 3 fellows on our 2020-2021 fellowship this year. And we really encourage you to actually go through our website, the LA Urban Research Center.org. And on our research tab, you can go ahead and look in there and get yourself familiar with that. And not just that, but we also have our first scholar coming in, so to use part of this data in their studies. So we're very excited for this and see what the great things that will come up and be able to partner. So thank you so much for the opportunity to serve you. We are here for you, and let us know how we can help you. Thank you. Back to you, Edith.
Thank you, Yassi. And I would like to now introduce Henry Herrera, who is the Regional Urban Forester for LA and Ventura counties at the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE. Henry, please take it away.
Thank you, Edith. Good morning. I'm Henry Herrera, the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, CAL FIRE Regional Urban Forester for Los Angeles and Ventura counties. I'd like to start off by thanking TreePeople for inviting me to be part of this webinar and for all the wonderful work that they and their partners are doing in urban and community forestry throughout Los Angeles County. I'd also like to thank the Forest Service for their partnership with which helped provide the funds for the tree canopy assessment and for working with us to advance urban forestry efforts throughout the state. The tree canopy assessment and map viewer of LA County is an essential step in evaluating the current state of urban forest and will help us narrow the focus of where more trees are needed, where existing trees need to be maintained, where urban forestry co-benefits may exist, or where they are absent, and even where other non-urban forestry related types of services are needed. We can see a clear pattern of where statewide, where between lack of tree canopy and disadvantaged community status and Cal EnviroScreen, the mapping tool that helps identify California communities that are most affected by many sources of pollution. So this is going to be a great tool to help us determine that and see what the relationship is between those areas that lack trees and the communities. I wanted to share with you that CAL FIRE is in the process of acquiring a new statewide urban tree covered data set. We hope to compare it to previous data that we acquired in 2012. This new data set will allow us to see the statewide urban tree cover trend by comparing it to the previous one and determine where tree cover has increased, where it's decreased, or where it's remained the same. We'll be able to use this as a basis for performance trends and to prioritize work from a statewide perspective. I'm glad to see that urban forestry is moving forward in LA County, especially despite the current situation with COVID-19 and budget decreases. It's in everyone's best interest to continue making progress and maintain our urban forestry investments. With that being said, I look forward to the presentation and with continuing our partnership with TreePeople and the Forest Service in order to expand and improve the management of urban forests throughout LA County. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we will now move to the moment we've all been waiting for. I'd like to introduce Dr. Shenhua Jia, who is a postdoctoral fellow at the Chapman University Center of Excellence in Earth Systems Modeling and Observations, and is really the person behind the tool that you will momentarily become familiar with. So I will cede my presentation control to you, Shenhua, and we'll let you get to it.
Thanks, Edith. Let me bring my screen. Okay. Thank you very much, Edith, for your introduction. Good morning, everybody. My name is Shenhua Jia. I'm working at Chapman University as a postdoc fellow at this moment. I'm very honored to be a part of this project. I am very excited about this upcoming tools and hope everybody attending this meeting today can get familiar with that after that. And after the presentation, I'm happy to take questions about this tool and related topics. So let me get started. What you are seeing right now is our LA County Tree Canopy Basic Viewer. In terms of basic viewer, that means we have an advanced viewer we'll be talking about later. So in this basic viewer, I'm going to give you a very brief walkthrough on the layout of this map and how to use that. So you may already see that from here, we have a big mapping area and we do have some basic map handling tools. This is zoom in tool and zoom out tool. And you can always go back to the home screen by clicking the default extent tool. And of course this is a map, so we always have a legend to show. You may have already noticed that a lot of our mapping elements have a Spanish language option, which we paid a lot of time to incorporate with the English version to better serve our communities. And of course, we have the share button. You can share this tool or this map if you find this very exciting. through social media or just email someone you know. And what you're looking right now is the tree canopy coverage of LA County. The default mapping extent shows you the zip code level of data. But of course, you can zoom in and zoom out to activate other layers you would like to see. For example, here, I'm just zoom in to a specific level. And in that case, I will be able to turn on the parcel level data, which is everyone is excited about. I'm very happy to see this map after I was able to finally incorporate that into our mapping tool, and it's just fantastic. So on each level of the map, one thing I would like to remind you is that for this basic viewer, we have turned most of the layers on, but some of them will be inactivated because it's too much details to, it's not very helpful to show everything at the same time. But you can always change your scale so that you can view layers at your desired extent. For example, by zooming out, I was able to bring up the census tract level map. And of course, we have a city level map if you zoom out all the way up to a small scale. So in the mapping area, if you click on any of the units in this map, you'll be able to see a pop-up. The pop-up shows you some basic information about this mapping element and a very brief description on how, what is the existing tree canopy in this specific unit and whether it's higher or lower than the LA County average. And you can also see there's a diagram showing the comparison between the existing and possible tree canopy coverage. You can hover on the bar to view the exact number. And of course, this title already tells you that in this unit, the existing tree canopy is lower than the possible tree canopy area. And this pop-up is enabled for all the layers up there, and it's different at every layer. If you click on the parcel level data, it's going to show you the information of this parcel, and this sentence is going to be different than the previous layer, even if you're looking at the relatively the same region. And on the right hand end of, if I want to go back, as I mentioned, I can always click on the home button and bring me to this county level map. And on the right hand side, we have two charts. The first one is what we call the average gauge. The average gauge calculates the average existing tree canopy coverage of the current mapping extent. That said, if you zoom in or zoom out, this value will change as you move away with your map. And besides the average gauge, we have a comparer. The comparer compares the possible percent of tree canopy and the existing percent of the tree canopy. Maybe you have already seen this in the pop-up, but for this tool, it calculates the same value for the current mapping extent. And you can always hover on the bar to view the number in the unit of percentage. And at the bottom, we have about this map, this box shows you what's being mapped in this tool. And we have links to our advanced map viewer and a story map we have prepared to tell you a little bit background story about how we got there. Some very basic hand description directions on how to use this map is provided here. And we do have a Spanish version. And lastly, for this basic viewer, we have credits information area. You can find the links to our partners for this project. And if you have questions, you can contact, the LMU Center of Urban Resilience. And that's our basic viewer. Now let's move on to our advanced viewer. I'm pretty sure you have questions, but I'm happy to handle the questions at the end of the presentation. So you can land on the advanced viewer by clicking the link from About This Map box to save some time, I'm just bring this up right now. The reason why we call this advanced viewer is that it provides more information than the basic viewer. It's serving a more broad, as a broader audience, since we want to address different types of topics in the two different viewers. So for the advanced viewer, the biggest chunk of the tabs are prepared to show the land cover maps at city, council district for the city of LA, zip code, census tract, block group, and parcel level. And we also have two derivatives out of the land cover map, as well as the tree canopy cover map, which we'll be talking about later. And for the first chunk of the information, that is our land cover map. As I mentioned before, we organize the map layers in different tabs representing different spatial levels. For each tab, you will be able to turn on the legend as well, the same thing as we have seen before in the basic viewer. And we have a layer selector tool. And in this layer selector tool, you'll notice that all the layers are active. That means if you click on one of the layer, it will be turned on. However, since we didn't really set up the transparency, if I turn on two layers at the same time, only the top layer will be showed up in the mapping area. If you want to make some change, we offer some flexibility to change the transparency, set the visibility range, or move up and down. And if you think the list is too long, you can always search with a keyword. And you can turn on all the layers on and off, and expand all the layers and collapse all the layers. Now I'm turning on two layers of the land cover maps. And similar as our basic viewer, we have a pop-up tool here. If I click on one of the city, which is the city of LA, I'm selected, it's gonna provide this sentence describing the tree canopy coverage, because this is our top layer right now, and how does that compare with the LA County average. We have a bar chart showing the land cover in percentage. You can hover on the bar chart to view the percentage. Since I have two layers turned on, I will be able to see two pop-ups for this unit. If I switch to my second pop-up, it's gonna show me the gross, the gross coverage of the city of LA, and how does that compare with the county of LA. And this land cover bar chart is the same as we have seen before. Now, you may notice that we have a panel on the right, which is the bar chart for the average land cover types of different kinds in the current view. If I change the mapping area, it will slightly change because I moved away from the entire county to a much smaller unit. And if you want to know the numbers, you can either expand this tool to view the numbers, or just hover on that. Yeah, we stack them up to make it better for the layout. And at the bottom, you may notice that we have a counter box. The counter box tells you how many units you have selected in your current, you are looking at in the current map viewer. If you go back to the home screen, it's gonna update again. Similar, at the bottom, we have a brief description about what's presented in this map, and we have a Spanish translation of this text. And this is our city level map. And we have the same type of layout for the other tabs. For example, right now I'm looking at the council district map for the city of LA only. The type of information we present here is the same as we have seen for the city map. You can go to this layer selector to select a layer you want to view, and the map will be updated. And one thing I would like to show you is the block and parcel level map, which we spent quite some time working on that to make this happen. So this is our block group and parcel level map. The default view shows you the block group map of by selected layer, which is the tree canopy. You may notice that in this tab, we have some layers become stayed inactivated at this point, because in order to accommodate the layers, we decide to set up the visibility of parcel level data, but you can always zoom in to a specific level so that you can turn on the parcel level data and you'll be able to show them. If I turn off my tree canopy parcel level data, and I can see the grass map at the parcel level. So everything is the same as we have seen before. The only thing you need to remember is you have to zoom in to activate the parcel level data. So let's go back to the default view. You may notice that for on the right-hand side, we have this panel. It's exactly the same idea as we have seen in the city level. And if you zoom all the way in, you can do the same to get a pop-up for the selected layers. And if you want to search for an address, you will be able to do that using an address box. So you should be able to type an address. For example, I type the Linwood City, California. I will be able to see this city, and I can add a mark. So since I'm looking at the council district level map, and this city is outside of the LA County, I don't have any maps showing up. But if I go back to the city level data and the other level of data, I will be able to bring that up. Linwood, here I am. I can add a mark, and by adding this mark, you don't have to always search for the same thing every time if you want to view that. Now, if I click on the Linwood box, it's going to give me the information about the tree canopy cover, since this is the only layer I'm turned on. If I turn on a different layer other than the vegetations, for example, I turn on the building map, it's going to show up. And then since I only have the building level map turned on, I will have a description of that and a bar chart of the land cover in percentage. So that wraps up the first chunk of the information presented in the tree canopy advanced viewer. And next, I'm going to move on to our dominant land cover type. So we will describe how we calculated the dominant land cover type in this map. So from this map, you'll be able to see at the block group level, this is our default layer. And we have a legend showing at the block group level, the dominant land cover type. So we included 8 land cover types: tree canopy, shrub, grass, bare soil, building, road and roadway, other paved surface, and water. And each of them have the Spanish translation as well. For the block group level, dominant map, you'll be able to click on that, and it will tell you what is the dominant land cover type in this specific unit. And also, which consists of how much percentage of the entire block group. And besides the block group level, data, we have census tract, zip code, LA City, council district, and the city of the entire LA County. So I would like to show you, I would like to explain a little bit how we determine the dominant land cover type in our map. So for each map unit, we first compare the percentage of all impervious and all impervious surface. The impervious means the surfaces that does not allow water to infiltrate through the surface, such as buildings, road and roadway, other paved surface. And in the pervious surface, it's just the opposite. It allows for the water to infiltrate through the surface. For example, trees, grass, even bare soil. These are types of pervious surface. So we first make a comparison between the big categories, pervious versus impervious. If impervious is higher, we will select the dominant land cover from buildings, building, road and roadway, and out of the paved surface. If it is the opposite, if that means if the pervious surface consists of a higher percentage, we select the dominant land cover type from tree canopy, shrub, grass, bare soil, and water. And we do the same for all the scales we are presenting here. If I turn on a census tract map, the map will change. And if I click on that, this will tell me this, in this specific census tract, what is the dominant land cover type. And the last thing I would like to mention about this for this dominant land cover type tab is the chart here. The chart shows you the dominant land cover distribution in block groups, because this is our finest data in this map. If I turn it on, I will notice that the building is consists of almost 3,000 of block groups in LA County as the dominant land cover type. And I can move on the list to see what how many block groups in the county of LA has the dominant land cover type for a specific category. And it's gonna highlight the units if you move with the chart. And you can, if you think it's too difficult to browse, you can always turn on the vertical axis. So we turn this off because we have a Spanish translation option here, and I don't want that to occupy too much of the space. But you think if it is better, you can always do that. And one thing I would like to mention is that for the maps, for the tabs we are offering right now, the boundaries between the boxes, between panels, are always adjustable, which means you can adjust them to fit your best need. And one last thing about this chart, like other tools we offer in this tool, this is changeable. If you switch to a different map view, this chart will update. And if I go, this is our second chunk of information offering in the advanced viewer. The last piece, which is the existing and possible tree canopy. And this is also the map I like the best in the entire project. We made this map because we want to highlight the areas where it is more possible to improve the tree canopy. So we use the relationship map tool from ArcGIS Online to do this mapping. You'll notice right now we're looking at the Census Tract map. And since we have several different color schemes here, I would like to explain the meanings of each. So if you look at the legend, the legend is a two-dimension matrix. If we have a high option, that is the yellow-green area, that means we have high existing percent of tree canopy and high percentage, high possible percent of the tree canopy. And you can do the interpretation for each of them, but somehow I find this less intuitive. So we have a box with more information explaining what the meaning of each extreme category. For example, the green color indicates the areas with the greatest potential for the tree canopy of cover improvements. As the existing percentage is low and the possible percent is high based on our previous assessment from TreePeople and our partners. And for the blue color, The blue color indicates the area with the lowest possible potential for tree canopy improvements because they have a very low existing and possible tree canopy cover percent. These areas are mostly located in the solid build-up regions, for example, the downtown LA, and several census tracts in Hollywood, and in some places in the Long Beach. So if I search for a specific area, for example, Linwood again, I will be able to click on that and view whether in this specific unit, whether the existing canopy coverage and the possible canopy coverage, which one is higher. And this is the same bar chart we have seen in some previous maps, but we do offer these options here as well. And like before, if you think this will always visit here in the future work, you can add a mark and you will be able to find this all the time. And previously, what we have seen is the Census Tract Map. We do have city level and council district level for city of LA only, and zip code. But in my opinion, I find this map looks better. Maybe it's more meaningful for policymakers and urban planners if we're looking at a finer scale. I would like to bring up the parcel level map because this is the finest level of data we are providing for this mapping project. So for the parcel level, you have exactly the same type of legend. If you feel kind of lost in understand this legend, feel free to refer to this side box. And same here for each unit. You will be able to click on that and find out what is the current status between possible and existing tree canopy coverage. And lastly, we have a tab about this project, providing you some more information, including what is the team behind this project and what kind of data we have used, and also links to our basic viewer and the advanced viewer. And also, if you have questions about this project and inquiry of data downloading, please contact the heroes@lmu.edu. And we have all the partners, all the project partners at the bottom of this map view. And this project is funded by the USDA Forest Service and CAL FIRE. And this is our advanced viewer. I know it's a lot of information. And if you want to share this map, you can always do that from at the top. And before we end our demonstration here, I'm going to show you the story map we have built for this map. So the story map gives you more information about this map and serve as a mini tutorial on how to use this map and how to interpret some of the metrics, the matrix we ordered and we provided in the map. Pretty much similar as what I have said before in the previous maybe 20 minutes or so. But a little bit more information and some screenshots in case people don't want to directly jump into the tool, but want to read a bit more about that. And we are working on a Spanish option for this story map as well. And in the story map includes 6 sections, the motivation of this project and the data we have used, introduction to the 2 map viewers. You can click on these objects to pop up to let the basic viewer or the advanced viewer pop up in a new browse window. And moving on, we have some more description about the basic map viewer and how to use them, what is being by the tools we are offering, and the advanced map viewer. This guy is a bit longer than the basic, covers all the information, and I have mentioned previously in our demonstration. And lastly, we have some information about the data sharing. First, I want to mention that the maps and the data layers to prepare these maps accessible through ArcGIS Online. Users can just search for data owned by curious@lmu.edu from ArcGIS Online to import this map in their own project and open them in your own ArcGIS Online account. And if you want to directly download the data, which is not an option directly available from the current ArcGIS Online we set up, feel free to contact curious@lmu.edu. Lastly, I would like to thank our partners, and this is some information we have seen before in both of our viewers, and I'm very happy to take questions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Shenhua. So we will now move into our next phase of the presentation here today. Hopefully you can all see our screen here. Can I get a thumbs up from my co-presenters? Okay, great. So you no doubt would like to now know, how do we access this thing? If any of you were furiously typing the very long URLs that we're showing as Shenhua was giving us the demonstration, fear not, you don't need to go through that. So at present, we have the story map and the viewers available at treepeople.org/treeviewer. However, the viewers will also be moving into their permanent homes on our other partner sites as well. They haven't quite made it there yet, but we will have access through the Center for Urban Resilience website, as well as the LA Urban Center websites as well. So it will all be available there. As Shenhua shared, we have Spanish features throughout the viewers themselves. We are actually sort of actively producing more content to support use of these viewers. And so we will continue to add additional Spanish features, including creating a parallel story map that is all in Spanish as well. And we will have, in addition to this webinar, we will have some instructional videos on how to use the tool, which will be available on TreePeople's website and on our YouTube channel. I wanted to mention that these data are also available. Shenhua mentioned that they are available on ArcGIS Online for more technical users. There's also another tool where the underlying data set is currently available, and that is the Trust for Public Land Climate Smart Cities Los Angeles tool. If you're not aware of this tool, it's a really powerful decision support tool that I encourage you to look into. It does take a little bit of technical expertise to use, but it's an aggregation of many different kinds of really powerful data, not just tree canopy, to support decision making in the LA area. Again, that's Trust for Public Land, Climate Smart Cities Los Angeles. I also wanted to mention before we go to questions that the intent is, we have static data at this moment. The data that you saw is based on 2016 imagery and LiDAR, which is light detection and ranging data, very high resolution. But we all know that the conditions of the urban forest are constantly in flux, and the intent is to work to update this kind of a viewer fairly frequently. We have to determine how to do that exactly, where to get the funding, etc. But we know that LA County and Steve Steinberg, who's on this call today as the county's geographic information officer, has the same hopes as well. So we are moving in a very good direction in the LA County area for supporting urban forest management and growth. So treepeople.org/treeviewer is where you can go and explore until your heart is content. And now let's go ahead, and I will hand it over to Lisa and Eric to moderate our questions and discussion.
Thanks, Edith. Eric, did you want to say anything? Are you jumping in?
No, I think you should go ahead in the time
Okay.
we have left. Oh, I think that aren't we planning, we'll have a formal end, but then we'll continue on with questions if people want to stay a little bit longer. So we understand your schedules are tight, as is mine. I'm actually giving another presentation shortly. So we'll formally end, but then we'll keep rolling for people who have time and want to ask additional questions. Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, I was going to go in sequential order, but there's a lot of questions and some are the same question over and over. So I think I'm going to jump to the main burning question, and that is the difference between existing and possible tree canopy criteria. Shinua, do you think you can answer that? You're muted.
Just give me a minute. Let me bring this up. We have an explanation about this on this tool. I will go and share my screen if you guys don't mind. So in short, we explain this in our story map, but we have exactly the same piece of information in the map viewer. The possible tree canopy includes areas that are theoretically available for the establishment of tree canopy. That said, in an area that does not really have a very high existing tree canopy coverage, we want to explore whether how much potential it has to get a further improvement. And I know people will be very interested in this this concept. So I know this map can be a little busy sometimes for people to understand. We provide more information about this. And also in the story map, we have the explanation of that. Since I just noticed that a lot of people would like to know what exactly do you mean by the possible tree canopy coverage, we will be adding this paragraph on about what do you mean, or what is the definition of possible tree canopy coverage directly in the map viewer. And also we have the same thing, we have the same feature in the basic viewer. And I think we will going to add this definition about possible tree canopy coverage in both the map viewer, so that people don't have to go back to the story map to search for the information on the meaning of that. So, but in general, I think it's very important to map this, because this is where you can improve, and we are always more interested in the place we can improve than just reviewing the existing ones.
Another question on the soil. Is there, and I think I know the answer to this question, but is there a way to distinguish hard-packed soil from regular soil? And Shinua, I don't know if you can answer that question.
So the data we have currently for the cover map is the bare soil. So I would say that includes both types. If I'm right, let me know, Lisa. So in short, it may not be able to distinguish that at this point, because it pretty much packs that level of soil to the other type. And this is sometimes the limitation of the data we can get from LiDAR. Also, some gaps between the knowledges. But we're very interested to make these maps more detailed. For example, I saw people mention about is it possible to know about the tree canopy tree species in the tree canopy maps. I think it's a brilliant idea, and in the future, this project should be heading to that direction. And of course, including with the possibility to include the hard-packed bare soil and loose bare soil. Let me know if that answers the question, or if you have other better options, better answers to that.
And in your answer, you've alluded to another question, which was, and I believe you mentioned it, but it's worth repeating.
Mhm.
Where has all this data come from? What are the different sources? Perhaps you can just repeat that.
So we have this information in about this map project, and you will be able to see the description of this data. So in general, this data comes from the LARIAC program. For the technical users, if you are successful to find these tools from ArcGIS Online, you should be able to read the information. You should be able to get a link about the data, where did we get the data from. And we do have the description about the data sources, if you are interested in that. And the LARIAC data we're talking about, let me see, just 1 minute. Since this is a very common question, I would expect people will be very interested in that. We will definitely add this link to have a better, to have a more clear, just directs people to the data sources. But we do have a description about this program, and because it's from LiDAR, it has a very high spatial resolution, as fine as 1 feet, if I remember. So it should, that's why we were able to bring the parcel level data up.
And just to note that Steve Steinberg is contributing some pieces of the answer in the chat box as well.
One of the questions was, how much will it cost to update the data? And I don't know, Steve, if you have an opportunity to update, or Edith, maybe that's something we need to answer the question, how much it would cost to update the data from 2016.
As much money as you have.
Okay.
No, LARIAC, just if I can jump in, this is Steve Steinberg from
Sure.
LA County. The LARIAC program is a countywide consortium of partners, cities, universities, the county, and some of the other organizations like Metro and so on. We do flights now, actually, we used to do them every 3 years, and this date is based on an earlier flight, but we actually just completed our 2020 mission a few weeks ago. That data has to go through all the post-processing and QA, so we don't actually see it till the end of the year. So we could actually update with 2020 flight data in early 2021. Now, there's a process to that, so it's not trivial. And now we are flying actually annually. So in theory,
Wow.
if we get a workflow, we could be updating this stuff annually. And that's, I mentioned a pilot project we're starting in the county this fall to get towards species. That's the longer term goal, is to be able to use our annual updates and get to a species level health and condition mapping of all trees in the county. Now, that's an ambitious goal. Give us 5 years to really get to the point where that's a workflow that's automatic.
Thank you, Steve. Shinua, another question about the difference between the building layers. Does it include pavement? And I think I know the answer to this question, but maybe you could just re-emphasize.
Okay.
I believe the pavement is broken out separately.
Yes, you're right.
Okay.
So in the land cover map, we contain we have 8 types. So building itself is a separate type. And besides building, we have another map called other paved surface. So you should be able to see that these 2 maps may look kind of similar in some areas, but not exactly, not always. You can see slightly different distribution in the valley. And if one tip, if you do want to see 2 maps at the same time, it is possible to adjust the transparency of the above layer, if that's what our users would like to see. But by default, the transparency is set up to 0. You can switch between the layers if you do want to do a comparison. And by the way, if you want to really develop a new map to compare these two. These layers are available from ArcGIS Online. You can search for curious at lmu.edu to find this. And once you find that, you can open that in ArcGIS Online and you will be able to make your own map out of it. I know ArcGIS has a very powerful tool that let you to do a comparison between multiple layers, and if that serves the best need, we will be very happy to see people make use of that.
Shinyu, I have a question from Dan Cooper. He wanted to know, and he didn't put it in the chat box for everyone. How does climate, life zone, and ecosystem data, how was it incorporated into the potential tree layer? Some areas of the county, for example, never had trees historically, Lancaster and the South Bay, yet others did. Are all considered equal?
I'm not sure if I'm the best person to answer this question. So in the, I will just put several words on that, but maybe Edith can, or other team members can take on that. So in this in the data you're showing from the map, it does not really have a hard boundary between the climate zones and other more environmental oriented units. We had those layers, but eventually with the site not including everything, because there's already quite a lot of information going on in this map. But for the other parts of this question, maybe I'm not sure I know the answer. Maybe Edith can take over that.
I can jump in and just provide what I know about this. So recall that this is all based on work that was done by the University of Vermont and by Save a Tree Consulting Group. And their process is to produce what they call a possible tree canopy layer, and it's actually composed of two separate ones, as we saw, one pertaining to impervious areas and one pertaining to pervious or vegetated areas. So what that looks at is, for example, with, is someone speaking?
They just muted themselves.
Great. Didn't know if somebody had a better answer that they wanted to contribute. So the impervious category looks at asphalt and concrete surfaces, excluding roads and buildings, that are theoretically available for the establishment of tree canopy. And that assumes that there are improvements that are going to be made. Vegetated or pervious possible tree canopy, that's grass or shrub area that is theoretically available. So you'll notice that the use of the term here is possible tree canopy, and oftentimes if you're familiar with this kind of work, you'll hear potential. Potential, it's a very, perhaps minute distinction, but potential has a suggestion that there's been some ground truthing and some verification done. So this is, again, this is theoretically possible. Then does need to be further sort of, ground truthed. You need to be very familiar with the conditions on the ground in order to determine whether or not any of this is quite possible. But in that sense, in some areas it may represent an even beyond an upper likelihood limit. But we thought that it was critical to include this so that we can begin to at least identify areas where there is currently low canopy and where there is the possibility of growing that in a significant way. I hope that helps. We worked with it's a very talented group at the University of Vermont who's done this for literally dozens of other regions. And if needed, we could find out even more than that from them if needed.
Another question, and we're almost up with time, and we can go over the 12 o'clock soft end date or end time. It's a question about soil conditions, again, having to do with the soil moisture. And again, Shinyu, I don't know if you can answer this. Is it broken out by the surface groundwater or the bedrock depth of the water? And I have a feeling this comes from a particular data set that may not be breaking down to that level.
Yeah, I think that's the correct take on that. For this map, it's a land cover map. So for experts on soil moisture, I would say in their eyes, tree canopy, shrub, grass, and bare soil, these types of pervious surfaces have different contribution to the soil moisture. So for the user who want to use this type of information for the project of this topic, I would say these they can take this these metrics as like so-called panel data, so category data to categorize the type of surfaces that contributing to the soil moisture at different levels. So for the hardcore, for the hard rock, maybe that means other paved surface more or just bare soil, but that's that has a lower possibility for to let water to infiltrate. I'm not sure if our data distinguish on that. Maybe it is another partner can contribute that. But if you want to know more information about the land cover map, so I would recommend going to the LARIAC website, because in the LARIAC website, you can click on the archives, and the latest option for the LARIAC data is LARIAC 5, and you will be able to find a very nice land cover product. And this is also the product our project have been built with. So that should give more information about how did the team behind LARIAC define different types of land cover, and we just stay consistent with this type of definition. And for other for the users, again, going back to the question about the soil moisture, if the soil moisture experts want to make use of this data, I would say the best way to take on that is they can either use the categorical data of land cover, because they are contributing differently to the soil moisture, or for the tree canopy cover, for each of them, we provide a percentage for each of them. For example, for census tract level, for each census tract, we have a composition. The bare soil consists of maybe 10% of this area. Tree canopy consists of 5% of this area. We have, for each unit, we have this percentage. And this percentage at each, for each category can serve as a quantitative variable in their model if this is the best for their work.
Another question about distinguishing between private tree canopy and public tree canopy, as well as right-of-way or parkway tree canopy. And I don't think this is broken out. You'd have to know the parcel down to the parcel level, I believe.
Yeah, we do have the parcel level data, but since this map is the focus is the tree canopy coverage, actually myself is very interested in the public and private accessibility of tree canopy coverage, because after we reach this level of mapping out tree canopy, the next question will be understanding its accessibility to the public. In that case, the users can use the parcel level data or block group level. Maybe parcel level data is better for that. If you can, as I said, you can search for the data layer and find a parcel level map from our map from ArcGIS Online, produced by our team. And then you have to incorporate, for example, road data from OpenStreetMaps or some more reliable sources for LA, and also footprint data, so that you can decide, you can define whether this data, this tree canopy or urban greenness is accessible to the public or not. So in this map, we are purely focused on mapping the tree canopy, but people are very welcome to make this as a jump start and use that for their own interested topic.
There's a question about whether other counties could have this data made available. And I guess that would be a question for if there's any members on this call from other counties. If you're interested, of course, you'd have to raise the funds. And we'd have to go back to the original providers of the data to see if they could help us put this together. Edith, do you have anything more to say about that?
No, I think that's right. I mean, our partner group is not planning to do this for other counties. It's just not something that we have the capacity to do at this time. But we would be happy to speak with any other interested parties from other counties who would like to, look behind the veil of the work that we did, and we'd be happy to share with you what our process looked like and what worked for us and what didn't. So yeah, for now, that is not something that we'll be able to take on, but happy to support others who are interested in our process.
I have another question on green roofs and garden terraces on buildings. Are they considered building or grass? How are they differentiated?
Based on my understanding of how the LiDAR and the LiDAR data work, I would say they should be categorized as the greenness or tree, for example, in our case, it's the tree canopy or the grass instead of the hardcore building. But maybe Steve from LiDAR has a better idea on that, or Edith and other team members.
Yeah, I'll say quickly, I'm actually not sure how green roofs are handled, but part of the LARIAC program also identifies building footprints. So, analytically, it would be easy to figure out if you have a green roof because it'd be within a building footprint, unless it's a courtyard. So no, but it could be, it's something we could get to.
Yeah, and one thing about the green roof, so if the green roof is rear green roof, that is vegetation covered, it should have a very unique reflectance in our remote sensing, in the satellite data or the LiDAR data. So it can be very different from just using a astroturf to cover a roof. It's completely different, and it should be able to distinguish by the LiDAR data or some other remote sensing or satellite products.
I've been going through all the questions, trying to grab any unique questions, and I apologize if I've missed anyone's question. If I have, please, if you don't mind, just re-enter it in the chat or just say, please look at my question. A lot of compliments, which is wonderful. And I just wanted to give a call out to Shinyua, who, in my opinion, is one of the most amazing designers of a system that I've ever seen. This is really a spectacular representation of this data. And I'm so grateful to be partnering and working with her, as well as Edith and the other partners. This has been a fantastic project to be on, and more work to be done. We get to crunch the data and really dive into what it all means.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. I'm very inspired by the questions you have mentioned before, because those are exactly what these data are built for.
And I'll just reiterate that we want to continue this conversation. If anybody, in fact, has any additional questions, if we did miss one of your questions, feel free to unmute yourself. We don't have to continue to use the chat box. We recognize we're over time, but that there's also a hunger for this conversation. So we're happy to stay on a few more minutes if anybody has additional questions. We take compliments too, of course.
I have a question on the data. Okay, I'm ready. When the flyovers are done, are they done at different times of the year to show the moisture level differences?
The short answer to that would be no from the LARIAC program perspective, but the longer answer would be that's something we're looking at in context of something called image fusion, where we would be able to use other imagery from things like satellites, because we have satellite overflights on a daily basis. So supplementing, and that's what our project this fall in part's going to look at for the species identification, is supplementing the annual LARIAC flights with the higher frequency of satellite imagery.
Great. Well, question here just typed in, will we be sharing this with the mayor, city council, and others? The answer is yes, Shelley, we will. We have plans to do that. We're going to be getting together a group of folks just to have a conversation about how to broach that and how to go about it. But yes, we recognize this is really a powerful way of visualizing what is and what could be. And so we absolutely do intend to leverage that as a tool. Well, I'm feeling like, oh, one more question. Will you share this work with the Registry Computer Vision program at Caltech? We have no problem doing so. Yeah, we're not currently in contact with them, but I'll look into that and see what makes sense for us in terms of moving forward with that. Well, I think we're going to let you all get to lunch. We're standing between you and lunch, but I just want to thank you all for staying over. Thank you for joining us. Once again, this would not have been possible without the support of the USDA Forest Service, CAL FIRE, and LA County. So thank you all for your leadership and your partnership. And now that you are all aware of this tool and have some familiarity with it, we deputize you to become protectors of the urban forest, and we look forward to working with you in the future. So thank you very, very much, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of your week.